All right, so this quarter on Sunday mornings, Mark and I are moving through lessons from the life of Joseph. And this class is going to be a little different from the others. The others so far have been moving through the text. So the first lesson was, yeah. We'll see how many times this happens to me this morning. It takes a little while to recover. What was your first lesson? I don't remember the first lesson. Yeah. See, that's why I don't give people such a hard time about remembering things from class, because I don't either. Anyway, we did, it was loved by the Father, hated by the brothers. So that first lesson was Genesis chapter 37, and it really focused on that narrative in Genesis 37, where Jacob loved Joseph and favored Joseph, and Joseph had his dreams, and so he was loved by the father, but the brothers hated him, and it kind of expanded into this class, lessons from the life of Joseph. So Jesus was loved by the Father and hated by his brothers, and that extends to us too. Loved by the Father, but that doesn't mean that everybody around us is going to love it. Like that some people don't like that you're loved by the Father. The second class was Genesis 38, about that text, and it was Judah and Joseph. Not just the Judah and what happened with Tamar, but how it fits into the bigger Joseph story. And then Mark's class last Sunday morning was chapter 39 with Joseph and Potiphar's wife and fleeing temptation. And so all of that is just to talk about how up to this point we've been like 37, 38, 39, and we're just taking a lesson from each of those. And that's not what this class is. This class is, we're going to step way back. We're going to look at all the way from 37 to 50. And we're going to talk about this idea. I'm calling it planting seeds. I'm not sure which title would be best, or even if there is a title. Learning to wait, reaping what you sow. You could call it a lot of different things. But the way that I want to start this is just by asking you, as you look at Joseph's story, let's start to make a list of all the examples you can think of where something that happened in Joseph's story or in Joseph's life, something happened, planted a seed, and that seed took some time to grow and eventually turned into something. And maybe it turned into something good, and maybe it turned into something not good. But I want to start, so this class is, let's just start by moving through Joseph's story. We'll talk about that. Where are some examples of this? The next thing that we'll do is we'll talk about, okay, so we're taking some lessons from this, and what are some examples for us of sometimes there are seeds planted in life, in our lives, or generally in the world, that take some time to come to fruition, either grow and turn out good or bad. Another word for this class, if you're trying to, like, what in the world am I talking about? Another word for this class that I thought about might be consequences. Consequences of decisions that we make, or consequences of things that happen. What are the long-term consequences of that? That's really what we're trying to accomplish in this class, is just talk about how the choice that you make right now may not end right now with that choice. That choice may grow into something over time. That's what this class is. So we got 3 parts. Examples from Joseph, examples from our life, and a list of Bible passages that are really clear about this subject. Okay, so let's just start with the bigger conversation. Let's talk about Joseph's story and examples of things that took a while to produce something. I'll give you the first word. I imagine it'll be kind of slow starting until we all figure out what I'm talking about. But I'll give you the first word if you want it.
So he interprets the dreams, or we just hop into chapter 40, where he interprets the dreams, doing good things, and then totally gets forgotten about for, I think, 2 years. And then finally, somebody's in the right place, right time, like, hey, Pharaoh's got a dream, let's get this Joseph guy out and try to do this.
Okay, let's talk about that one first. So since I'm asking you for your input, which I want, I would rather do the class that way. That one's like number 4 on my list, so I'm not going to click the button right now. I'll give you the list when we're done. Or you can have it after class, but I'll click on it. We're going to, let me look at that one first, but keep it in mind, please. Don't forget. But I want to do them as you say them. So let's do chapter 40. Genesis chapter 40. I think for the sake of my voice, I'm going to call on readers, please. So Genesis chapter 40, would somebody please read verses 12 through 15?
And Joseph said to him, this is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Now within 3 days Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your place, and you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hand according to the former manner when you were his butler. But remember me when it is well with you, and please show kindness to me. Make mention of me to Pharaoh and get me out of his house. For indeed I was stolen away from the land of the Hebrews, and I have also done nothing here that they should put me into the dungeon.
Okay, I had a dream. Joseph says, God can tell you what this dream means. And he says, wow, thanks for the good news. And then Joseph says, listen, I did this thing for you, and it has a positive outcome. I'm only asking one. You're going to be standing in Pharaoh's presence. Just let him know. Let him know that I mean, that's kind of makes pretty good sense, right? Like, it's not even I'll scratch your back, you scratch my back. It's like, hey, listen, I did something really cool for you. Just drop my name to Pharaoh and let him know how this is going. So verse 23, yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. And I've got something for you to highlight in this verse. How about this before we read it? Does anybody remember? This is one of those random facts that these are things that I don't normally remember. Do you remember how long it took for the cupbearer to remember Joseph and say this thing? Anybody? 2 years. How long would it have taken Joseph sitting in jail to lose hope and think, yeah, you forgot about me? You know what I'm saying? Like next week. Next week he's going to say it. Next month, maybe. These things take time. 6 months. A year. 2 years. He's like, this is not. Look at it. I got the verse for you. Chapter 41 and verse 1. After 2 whole, the Bible even says whole, 2 whole years. Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile, and he has this dream. Verses 9 through 14, then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, I remember my offenses today. And Joseph's like, thanks a lot for finally remembering that I did this great thing, you know. So, okay, so that's what we're doing in this class, at least for the first part of the class. Joseph's story is just full of this kind of stuff, where something happens, and then that seed takes time to grow into something else, where 2 years have passed, and it's like, that thing that I did 2 years ago, it finally produced fruit. Oh, wait, I said Dave first, and then I'll come to you.
The dreams that he had with his brothers, and he interpreted them, that everyone would bow down to him as the king chief, or
Yeah.
the king ear.
Yeah.
And even his father didn't appreciate it.
Yeah. What are you talking about here? Let's look at those. Let's look at those verses real quick. Chapter 37 and verse 5. chapter 37 and verse 5, Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more, and he said to them, "Hear this dream that I have dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright, and behold, your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf." And then he has another dream where there's bowing down to him. And that finally, I think we should do this. Last week was camp week, and so my notes are not in my Bible yet. That's a next week thing. But next week, what's going to happen is, next to that story, next to the verse, "And your sheaves bowed down to my sheaf," this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to point it to the place where it happens. Chapter 42 and verse 6. "Now Joseph was governor over the land. He was the one who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the ground." Chapter 43 and verse 26. 43:26, "When Joseph came home, they brought him into the house to give him the present that they had with them and bowed to him to the ground." And then, since we're here, verse 28, "They said, 'Your servant, our father, is well. He is still alive.' And they bowed their heads and prostrated themselves." Okay, so here's a question. There's not an answer to this question. Well, there's not an answer to this question that I know. This is just an opinion question. But the opinion is Joseph was 17 when he had those dreams, and that was a problem with his brothers and his father. And then he goes through his entire life story. He's the second most powerful man in Egypt, and his brothers come and bow down to him. Do you think that, I hate these questions. I even hate to ask it like this, but do you think when Joseph saw his brothers bowing down to him, he remembered that dream? Do you think in that moment he was like, "Oh, when I was 17 years old, I had a dream that this was going to happen"? Or is it just this thing that we get to know? I don't know.
I would imagine it would have been an unforgettable dream.
Yeah, God
So I
spoke
bet
to me.
he would remember it.
Yeah. But wouldn't that, imagine that you're Joseph and like, "I have been in jail. No, I was sold into slavery. I went to jail twice. And now I'm the second most powerful man in Egypt. And there are my brothers bowing down to me just like who would have ever, I almost said dreamed. Who would have ever imagined?" But that's what Joseph's story is full of this. Here's something that happens, and it grows over time into this thing.
Also, a recurring theme, Jacob and Esau were twins, and when they were born, Jacob was the second born, but the prophecy or whatever, the younger, the older will serve the younger. So maybe he even remembered that, from his childhood, as maybe his dad told him about those things.
Yeah, and it's like, wait a minute, here I am, the youngest, and his story is just full of reversal. Jake, did you have a comment on this? Okay, is it on this point or is it another one? Hold on, because Sarah's next.
It's not exactly that, but I could see when he first brought up those dreams to his brothers, he had a little bit more like arrogance to him. He's just saying, "Behold, this dream I have, and this is just said it." But then later, when he was in prison and he's interpreting dreams, he first gives credit to God, and you can see like a growth in him.
Yeah.
And using this gift that God has given him in a way that's more, that doesn't palatable with whatever and things.
Yeah. Which, come on now. All of us 17-year-old young men started out, and it took some of us a little bit longer to get to learning how to say something in a way that didn't make people want to sell you into slavery and throw you in a hole. Some of us are still learning that lesson. But your point, I think, I considered your point as an entire class for the Joseph thing, because the Joseph story is a story of people growing. Like Judah. Do you remember when we looked at Judah and Joseph and how It was Judah's idea to sell him into slavery. And that whole class is now Judah has suffered all of the consequences that he inflicted on other people himself. And now he's at the end of the story, he's the one who has a completely different mindset. It's a story of growth, which is really good. Jay?
Jake.
I'm sorry?
Jake, I think.
I think Jake pointed to you.
Oh.
That was his hand.
This isn't exactly that, but one of the things that I liked is I was looking back in verse 39, and I think, and you mentioned the 2 years, and how horrible that was, and I imagine it was. But one of the things that I did like was when he was in jail in 39:21. But the Lord was with Joseph and extended kindness to him, and gave him favor in the sight of the chief jailer. The chief jailer committed to Joseph's charge all of the prisoners who were in the jail, so that whatever was done there, he was responsible for it. The chief jailer did not supervise anything under Joseph's charge, because the Lord was with him. And whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper. So in the meantime, and then again, jail, but God did things for him, so that in the meantime, those 2 years probably weren't completely miserable. I think of those kind of things in my own life, like if I'm going through something, but God will send people and situations, and to recognize those kind of things that are going on that are still good in your life, even if there's something you're going through that's really awful.
Yes. So let's make that a point into itself. And this is the way that I have it written in my notes, because I didn't want to change it, but I think my own thinking about this point changed, and so I made a slash, and there's 2 things. So this is it. The first way that I wrote this is that Joseph proved himself to be a capable person and a man of integrity over and over again. But in each of these examples that we're going to point to now, I think that that's true. You plant seeds in life. Joseph planted seeds of being a capable person. He showed integrity in all of his different life circumstances. But in all of these different situations, I don't think you can just say Joseph had a really good resume because he was a super good dude. They all say the Lord was with him and God was causing this to happen.
I know Becky and I have talked about this, like Joseph didn't wallow. He didn't just sit there and, oh, woe is me. He served. And that's been our conversation recently, is the best way to get yourself out of a funk is to look at other people and see what you can do for others, and stop thinking about yourself, and then you realize there's so much more to focus on.
Yeah, 2 things. Where I come from, we call it waller. You don't waller. But I want to change your word. The best way to get yourself out of a funk. In Joseph's story, let's say the best way to get out of a pit. Because that's a theme over and over again. So listen to this. Jacob trusted Joseph to give a report about his brothers. Joseph, go and do this thing for me. Joseph became the head of Potiphar's house. Do you remember he was sold as a slave of Potiphar, and he rose up through the ranks, and Potiphar was like, "You're the guy, run my stuff." He did, in that same category, he demonstrated that he was a man of integrity with Potiphar's wife. And then he got thrown into prison, and he rose up. He proved himself to be a capable man, so that the jailer said, "Just run the prison. You just take care of all of this stuff." You see what I'm talking about? Like, there's a theme in his life until you finally get to chapter 41 and verse 37, where Pharaoh says, "You're the one who told me this dream. Why don't you just take care of it?" Now he's the second most powerful man in all of Egypt. To the thing that it's like, hey, look at all of these. Who would have ever thought that when his dad said, "Joseph, go and check on your brothers," that he was planting seeds in his life to become the second most powerful man in the world? That's this growth.
Just makes me think of the words of Jesus, "He who's faithful in a little is faithful with much." He's like, "I'll give you 1 talent. If you take that out, I'll give you more. I'll give you more.
I'm going to write that down. That's good. Okay, next. Give me another one. One more.
I'm thinking of the like when they store up the grain in the silos for like they take 1/5 for the first 7 years, and then that pays off because they make like so much. Like Joseph becomes like in control of like all of Egypt and all of the land. He's like, responsible and took care. Now he's taking care of the people, and the people are getting everything they have to Egypt.
Yeah. That one is such a big point for me that it's its own class later. And I think the title of that class, at least now, I don't remember if it's Mark or I, but the title of that class is something like Saving Up for a Rainy Day. Learning about what I do now pays off later. Because that one's a big one. Okay, let me roll through my list because I want to get to not the most important. The most important stuff is the text, but I want to get to the application here. This is a negative outcome. Joseph's father openly favored him, and that thing was a seed that led to his brothers hating him. Joseph not knowing tactfulness was a seed that grew into hatred. There's consequence. What's your title for this class? Now that you know what we're talking about, you see why I have like 4 titles? Planting seeds, learning to wait, consequences. Somebody could have like a really good idea, but I just liked them all.
I'm wondering about your thought of this is a negative, which it can be, but as we apply this to Jesus, he was openly favored by his father, which had, quote, a negative reaction from the scribes and Pharisees and the whole mob of people that weren't ready to hear the confrontation that they were doing what was wrong, showing on a mat, swallowing a camel. That was very offensive,
Yeah.
and Jesus didn't hold blows back.
Yeah. So this led to this, led to crucifixion, led to our salvation. Seeds. Time and seeds. What you got?
2 things. One about what Dave said about this being negative, but it's kind of hard to call it negative because something good came out of it. But it's like refining metal. When you apply the heat to it, the dross rises to the top, you scrape that part off. But it's the negative part of that heat, that causes the purification to happen.
Yeah. Who wants the fire in their life? That's kind of what this class is. Who wants the fire? But the fire does something, should do something over time. Did you have another?
And then the name of this class, I'll take this from something I heard Stuart say a long time ago. The name of this class would be,
No, that's not what Stuart. You got to add this in when you do it. You got to add that piece, or it's not the same. Hold on one sec. Oh no, go ahead.
Kind of related to that, and then what Adam was talking about, and then getting back to the 2 years again, maybe it took that long for the refinement. Like, he's going to be second in charge of they're the world power, right? So he is the second in power as far as politically in the world.
Yeah.
One could argue spiritually the leader at that point.
Yeah, that's not something that flips. This is maybe my favorite one. More speculation, I think. What spot in the birth order did Reuben hold in Jacob's family? He was the firstborn, right? So Reuben was the one in chapter 37. I won't read all of these different passages. Reuben was the one who said, let's not kill him. And then he was gone and they sold him into slavery and he came back and Reuben said, what are you doing? I don't know if it's because he was the oldest and he had to answer for this or what, but Reuben was the one. And then look at this, 42 and verse 22. When they're standing before Joseph, 42 and verse 22, Reuben answered, did I not tell you not to sin against this boy? But you did not listen, so now there comes a reckoning for his blood. And they did not know that Joseph understood them, for there was an interpreter between them. So I don't know this, but I wonder if this was when Joseph found out that Reuben didn't want to do this in the first place. He's sitting there listening to the whole thing. And I don't know, Joseph's like, at least there's one of them that didn't want me dead, at least. But then check this out. Look at, what's my next verse? I forgot where I was. Verse 22, 23, verse 24. Then he turned away from them and wept, and he returned and spoke to them, and he took Simeon from them and bound him before their eyes. What order was Simeon? The second one. So could it be that Joseph, hey, you're the first one, you're the one that's going to stay, but he heard Reuben say, I didn't want to kill him in the first place, so he moved down the list and said, Simeon, you're up. You get to stay in jail until it comes back. I don't know. That one's speculation. Next is Judah. I won't read this one, but when you get to the end of the story in chapter 44, Judah gives a speech, and his speech is the longest single speech in the book of Genesis. It's pretty long. And his speech to Joseph is, please don't keep Benjamin, because Benjamin had been caught with the divination cup, and he said, please don't keep Benjamin, because my father has been suffering ever since he lost his other son, and if you keep Benjamin, it's going to kill him. And remember, it was Judah who said, let's sell him into slavery in the first place. I wonder if Judah just lived with that guilt his entire life, and so now that seed had grown into, what do I need to do to make this not happen to my father again? He was willing to intercede himself. It grew into something. Joseph's brothers all bowed down him. We talked about that one. God was with Joseph. He proved himself capable. We talked about that one. Joseph interpreted the cupbearer's dream. That's Kevin. That's the first one. God's grand scheme. Look at this one. Go to Genesis 15. This is not specifically Joseph, but I think that this one's really neat. God makes a promise to Abraham that he's going to give Abraham this land. In verse 16, your descendants, Abraham, shall come back here in the 4th generation, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. Even Joseph's story is just a part of the growth of a seed that was planted a long time ago. And God is working this plan, and it's all growing into something that he intends for it to be. Okay, so there's more. But that's the textual basis for this class. Joseph's story is full of seeds that are planted that take a long time to grow into something. Let's transition into life. What are some examples about what this looks like in life? And how we find it in our world, in our lives, all kinds of things.
Well, something that pointed out to me is when, and this applies to our life too, when Joseph was sold into slavery, they lied to their father. From the very get-go, when Joseph was sold. Then you come all the way into chapter 42. What do they tell Joseph when he says they're spies? We are all one man's sons. We are honest men. Your servants are not spies. Yes, you are. Your servants are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. In fact, the youngest is with our father today, and one is no more. So the perpetuation of the lie continues on. And that's one thing that I take from this is do whatever it takes, that even if you lie, to make it right. Because the perpetuation of that lie is what pulls their hearts. Like if you take Benjamin, our father will die. Our father, what they did to Jacob is unbelievable. And to the point of, I'm sure some of them, that lie became true.
Yeah.
So don't live the lie, because eventually to you, it will be the truth.
Yeah. Whenever Luke and Lily graduated and got ready to take off, I have a list of things that I've kept through the years. And the file is just called advice. And I go through and I write out the things. And one of the things on both of their list is tell the truth. One, because it's the right thing to do. But two, because that lie you tell will follow you forever. And you will never escape it. And it's just that seed that you plant, you may not imagine what it's going to grow into. But many of us are like, just don't do it. Life is a lot easier to just tell the truth. Okay, telling lies that grow into something. What else? Just examples of planting seeds. What comes to your mind?
I think of the words adults spoke into me, over me, however you want to say it, but really framed my internal dialogue, and I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm useful for, and it's so helpful. I think maybe when you're little to hear, do this, you're good at this, this is what you help people with, and it set me up for, I don't know, like you were ready to run as an adult. You weren't like limping to figure out where do I fit in or what do I do. So I think those seeds planted early have been so encouraging to me. I don't have a question.
Yeah. So, all of us now investing in our younger people that might not appear to be very much. You want to know a secret? It's not a secret. You know it's not a secret. You want to know something though? That's not candy. That's investment. Just in case you didn't already know that or understand it. Investing in our young people and watching those seeds turn into something down the road. Yeah, that's a really good thought. Becky?
Well, it is so often the parable of the soils, that we are going to tell people spiritual truth, and it may take a really long time for that to actually hit them, and they are willing to accept it, but we still have to do it, and just wait on God to give increase.
Yeah, teaching the gospel. Teaching the gospel might seem like you ask me a question, I open my Bible, I give you an answer. This is the problem. This is what you need to do to fix the problem. And we stand back and we say, what are you doing? Like, what's this? And it might be 10 years before that seed grows into something. I think this is the top one on my list. Teaching the gospel. What we're doing here, so first of all, what we do individually in sharing the gospel message and sharing the word of God with people, but even in our homes and our families, we're playing a long game. And if you're expecting those immediate results, then you're not understanding what we're doing. We're planting seeds that are going to grow into something maybe 20 years from now. That's what this class is to understand this. Jim?
Part of what I took from it was the danger of jealousy from his brothers, especially the danger of jealousy in our lives too.
Yeah. Yeah. The Hebrew writer calls it the root of bitterness. That root that grows into something else. Did you have something back here? No. Okay. Yeah, Adam.
I was just thinking about it, like relationship building in general, and sometimes it's evangelism, and sometimes it's with each other. Like the small interactions we have seem really insignificant as a one-off, but when you start chaining them together, you're just continually checking on someone, you're continually making yourself available, you're continually being a good friend. You know, one day they come to you and really there's something that you can provide a value or vice versa, but it's just been the small bits of faithfulness, and we can't go 0 to 100 in those small relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. And that works in the other direction too. Not investing in those small things. Whenever you're ready for the big thing, it's not there because you didn't grow it or water it.
I was gonna say too, like, speaking truth into other people's lives, but also
Tim, how many of you were there that started this group?
Probably not more than 16 or 17, maybe most.
I often think about you through the years, just watching what's happened to this congregation. And it's like, here we are in the building with the red carpet, and there's a few of us, and it goes up and it goes down and it goes up. And it's like, now we need to build a building. Now we need to buy the next door property. Now we need to find another solution. And it's like, those seeds that you planted a long time ago, it's just growing, growing, growing. I got two more, and then I want to move on because I got some scripture that I want you to read. But these are important. Some of us, parents making bad spiritual choices when our kids are little. Those bad spiritual choices grow into something that we may come to regret. Or some parents now making good spiritual choices with their kids. And you watch your kids do their own thing and you bang your head against the wall, but we hope at some point those seeds that we planted will grow. Okay, I got a couple passages for you. I think I've got this one. There you go. I'm not going to read all of these. Let me just point you to a couple. Psalm 40 and verse 1. Can somebody read that, please?
I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined to me and heard my cry.
Oh, would you do 2 also?
He drew me up from the pit of destruction, out of the miry bog, and set my feet upon rock, making my steps secure.
I wonder if the psalmist had Joseph in mind when he said that, or if it's just a common life experience. I waited patiently for the Lord. He drew me up out of the pit and set me on a rock. That's Joseph's story. What about this one? Isaiah chapter 40 and verses 28 to 31.
Do you not know, have you not heard? The everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, does not become weary or tired. His understanding is inscrutable. He gives strength to the weary, and to him who lacks might, he increases power. Though youths grow weary and tired, and vigorous young men stumble badly, yet those who wait for the Lord will gain new strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not get tired. They will walk and not become weary.
Yeah. I think the implication there is when you run now, you will get tired. But you wait on the Lord, and there's a day coming where that won't be. Like you plant the seeds now, wait for God, and here you go. How about, what are we doing on time? 2 more. Lamentations 3, verses 24 through 26.
The Lord is my portion, says my soul, therefore I will hope in him. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the souls who seek him. It is good that one should wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord.
Wait quietly for the salvation. That's Joseph in jail for 2 years, thinking, I had a dream that my brothers were going to bow down to me and I'm sitting in prison. Wait quietly for the Lord. And then lastly, Galatians chapter 6 and verses 7 through 9. Galatians 6 verses 7 through 9.
Do not be deceived, God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap. For the one who sows to his own flesh will from the flesh reap corruption, but the one who sows to the Spirit will from the Spirit reap eternal life.
That's the last one. Every single day for us is planting seeds, either for eternity in heaven with God or eternity separated from God in destruction. You might not see it now. You might not even think about it on a daily basis. But every single day, we're planting seeds. So here's our takeaway from this class. Our takeaway from this class is, let's recalibrate. totally recalibrate your brain and the way that you look at things and the way that you look at life. Our interactions are not just one interaction at a time. The encouraging words that we speak, the gospel message that we share, the time that it takes to raise up our kids and our kids. They are not just one interaction at a time. We're planting seeds, and we're going to wait for those seeds to grow into something that God intends. Any last words? You can have the last word on this class.
No matter what situation, wait upon it, pray about it, and just ask the Lord if it's your will, let this happen to somebody or to your family or whatever. But whatever you do, don't be impatient with God, but just be patient. God will answer you.
Yeah, got it?
One of the things that I liked even as a kid was the story. It has a happy ending. And at 45, think of the things that Joseph could have done to all of his brothers, but instead he said, don't be angry with yourself, don't be grieved, because of what you did to me, I'm going to save you. I'm going to save the nation, basically. And as you know, the 12 tribes come from his brothers.
Yeah.
So I'm mindful of that. And then Mark in the very first class talked about, one of the things he talked about was Joseph as a shadow of Christ. And you see that as well. And if you can see that in Joseph's life, then you can see, oh, don't I want that with Jesus? And that's kind of the big picture there. I want to follow him because he's going to save me.
Yeah. Good. All right. Let's plant some seeds.